What's going on, everybody? It's Jamie,
And John,
and welcome to the A-To-Zed Reseller podcast. How's it going this week, John?
pretty good, man. It's been busy. It's been steady in all kinds of different ways. We were chatting just a minute before this started up, and I had a little bit of a late night last night, but it was fun. It wasn't a bad thing by any means, but yeah, just trying to recover, keep everything on track, and keep everything on schedule, and but overall pretty good.
Nice.
Yourself?
Yeah, it's been a busy week. I sound like a broken record. I feel like I'm trying to declutter all the stuff I have in my house. I have too much stuff. I feel like that, and then sometimes, like today, I was trying to list, and then I was trying to make some drafts for this week, so I didn't have to. I'm gonna list every day, but I like to have items in drafts so I can just go to that in the morning and get
Mm,
listings up. Um, but then I was struggling to find stuff I actually wanted to list, which is a problem, right? That's why I don't like to have a death pile as well, because if I pick and choose what I want to list, then I'm left with the stuff that I'm not so excited about. And it seems to sit here longer and longer until I force myself to do it, which at some point I do that. But yeah, that's been this week, just trying to straighten things up.
yeah, no, I hear you there, and I mean that's a good point. Like that's why I don't really run into that issue because mostly sell clothing and a lot of it's women's clothing, so I'm not really excited about any of it to be honest with you. Um, but I know what you mean. You have maybe you get some other stuff, you get some hard goods, you get whatever else, and it's like, all right, what do I want to list? And it's always easy to pick the fun stuff, and then you look at what's left, you're like, what is this junk? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was just listening this morning. I wanted to show you. I don't know if you remember these things or not. Do you remember what these things were?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Mighty
yeah,
Beans.
yeah, yeah.
So these came from. I just listed these this morning. Is why I'm excited about them still. So there's all kinds of them. You probably can't see them. The top row is mostly Pokemon. There's some Marvel characters, and then there's just a mixed match of whatever in there. I don't know what they're going to sell for, but at the Goodwill bin, somebody's like, "Hey, what do you think of these?" And they kind of threw them over at me, and I'm like, "Yep, I'm definitely going to take them." So I didn't have much money into them, and then I didn't know anything about them. I just took them home as well, and they wound up being, depending on which ones you have, they're actually very valuable. Like some of the licensed ones can be worth like, you'd have to sell a lot of like 20 of them, but it still might be like 50, 60, $100 depending what they are. Which
Sweet.
I just thought they were fun. I'm like, I remember these things. They can't be worth anything. Brought them home just to kind of play around with them and see what they're worth. And yeah, so so things like that excite me. Yeah, but then
Mhm.
like you say, you pull out a pair of women's jeans or something else. I will list that stuff because it's what's available a lot of times. But that to me is fun, right?
Yeah, 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 for sure. And that's why I have no problem like selling off some of my own personal collection sometimes if we get a little bit of a slow week and it's like because my end game is to get some debt paid off and stuff like that. And I mean I have a pretty big video game collection, so it's like every now and then I kind of go through, okay, what could I sell, and not miss. And I don't mind that stuff because it spices it up. Like I enjoy it. And so it's like, all right, sweet. I just sold a cool video game or a console or something, and I'm happy enough to have the money.
Oh, for sure. I like to do that myself as well. Like we'll declutter around the house, and some stuff just goes straight to Goodwill or whatever, or maybe to a yard sale pile, even though I'm not the biggest fan of having yard sales, even though I like to go to them. Um, but yeah, I mean that's always a good way to just to get rid of stuff around the house and sort of, declutter just in life in general.
Definitely. And you know what? I think that is a perfect segue into the first topic we were going to talk about today. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to talk about when is it the right time to unload inventory, right? So like cut your losses and stuff maybe you've had way too long. Uh, and I think the longer you do reselling, the more you're mindful about what you do pick up because you do have things that stuck around way too long and maybe left a bitter taste in your mouth. But what's the breaking point for you these days?
So for me, I'm kind of at that. I'm kind of getting to that breaking point right now with some stuff because, like, I pretty much started in on clothing about not quite 2 years ago. Um, so I mean, I dabbled a little bit before that, but so I'm starting to get into that point where it's like things are, like a year and a half old and approaching 2 years old, and I'm like, man, I can't believe I still have this thing just in this box or something. So obviously, I still have like early stuff that was just probably a bad buy. So it's not, I mean, I'm ready to let go of it now, but it's not really in my way at this point. It's in my inventory and it's fine. But I would say on things that I pick up these days, unless it's something that's really seasonal, like, it's a winter coat, it's probably not going to sell in July. Unless it's something that's really seasonal. I mean, I really like to see things move within 6 months. Not to say that I won't hold on to things longer than that. Obviously, some things will take longer, but um, I think I think a good business practice for me and something that I'm going to be doing here very soon is doing like a yearly inventory and where I go through everything. And I think for me, an annual declutter where I'm just like, okay, I need to reevaluate this. Maybe most of those items that are only a year old stay, but I'm gonna inevitably find things that are like a year and a half, 2 years. All right, time to go. Take this off to Value Village, get a coupon or something.
Yep. I think that's not a bad idea for sure. I know I'm at the point, I feel like I do it maybe quarterly, but sometimes maybe it's longer in between too. But like what you just said, go through everything in your store. I know last time I went through I would say the majority of my store was all clothing, and I didn't look at the hard goods so much. And then I went back and looked at some hard goods that I had for a long time, and I wound up running sales to get rid of some of the stuff. And I did wind up just delisting and donating some of it as well. Um, I think I'm about the same though. I think maybe a year and a half is a good time to think about if you haven't sold it when you're running sales, and sell, if you try to end sell similar or just readjust pricing. If it hasn't sold, it might just be an item that's not worth selling. Or if you have multiple of the same item, maybe it's time to like lot them together and try to get rid of them that way. Or it's so hard to say. But yeah, I don't know if there's really a good time to say, cut your losses with things. But things change over time, so definitely the value of things at the very least are going to change.
Yeah, that's true. For me, I have, I kind of have a threshold that makes sense for me, but it's going to vary for everybody. Like, I have a storage unit right now where I've got everything set up, and I know that it's filling up pretty quickly, and I still have some decent amount of room, but like, I'm planning on ramping up and growing even more this year, and I can see that if I keep going at the pace I'm going, I'm probably going to need to just start cutting things out by the end of this year because I'm going to run out of space. So maybe I'm able to get a second unit, maybe whatever else. That's a business decision that makes sense based upon kind of volume you're doing and whatever cost you have. But for me personally, I know that I'm soon getting to that point where I'm going to reach capacity. So I'm going to be forced to make decisions about what I have, how much I pick up. I don't want to slow down on my new sourcing, so I'm going to have to make room, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I was kind of thinking about for myself when I started open the antique booth, which hopefully at the end of the month I'll do an update of my first month there. But I was thinking, okay, so I'm going to move out a lot of jerseys there, some collectibles, and that's going to open up all this space in this room I'm sitting in right now.
Mhm.
No,
Your
for
room
whatever,
looks pretty full.
it's pretty full right now. Yeah, yeah, I just keep buying, and I don't know. Like I never really show on my channel our spare bedroom. It is a spare bedroom, and when it's usually my niece who comes and stays once in a while on the weekends and stuff. I'll just move the stuff out of the room and just place it in here. It's definitely in the way. It kind of belongs in the other room, but now I'm starting to take over a second room on a regular basis. So yeah, space is going to be an issue for me here going forward too. I really do need to figure out what I'm going to do for space, or clear stuff out, or something. Like it is an issue. But when you're trying to grow, you can't stay you can't just stay the same and expect to grow. If you want to grow in the reselling business, you have to put in more listings, more effort, everything. The only way that's not possible is if you have just only get 100% sell through, or 100% sell through rate items. That's the only thing you're going to list, and that's not very likely in any scenario.
If you figure out how to do that, then let me know
Yep.
because that would be the end of the podcast. It would be the end of YouTube as it
Yep.
stands. Just here's the video, the one ring to rule them all.
Hmm.
Just get all 100% sell through stuff.
That
That
would
would be awesome.
Yeah, when that happens, I will do a video and I will cast it from my private island because I'll clearly
Right.
be rich at that point. and that will be the end of reselling. You're right. It'll break the internet most likely.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Which you know, all this kind of comes full circle for me anyway, because I think our friendship is basically because of, I think, the reselling community. I can't see too many other scenarios where probably somebody like me and yourself, even though we're very similar in a lot of ways, I think we like a lot of the same type of things. I would have probably never met you if it wasn't
Oh
for
yeah.
the reselling community. Um, how important do you think that is in this industry? I know I hold it very high in regard, but interesting topic just to talk about here.
Yeah, so like, I'm not like a highly social person, and I know we've talked about it before. We're kind of introverts, in our regular life and stuff. And, so many ways in my daily life, I'm just very much to myself. And, even like, my girlfriend and I, we very much like to do our own thing a lot of times as well. And, but, but when it comes down to, the reselling, I think, I'm always of the mindset that there's always enough for everybody, and the best way to like learn and get better and to grow is to communicate with others. And yeah, you and I would probably never have met. I mean, I found your channel when I was starting up my channel, and well, before that, but like trying to find Canadian resellers on YouTube and just trying to get some ideas, and figuring out whether YouTube was something I wanted to do with this as well. And yeah, I mean, as it turns out, we've got some similar interests and things like that. And I think if we lived 10 minutes apart from one another, maybe we would have ended up meeting organically, and a friendship starting there. But like, I'm in Nova Scotia, you're in Ontario. The chances of us maybe having like a mutual Facebook friend or something, and then meeting is probably pretty low. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that the reselling community itself is, I think it's important because there's no way you're ever going to be able to have the time to research everything on your own. You're never going to be able to learn everything. You're never going to be able to like, um, just have a perfect track record. So when it comes to things like the Facebook group that yourself and Matt are admitting and stuff, it's like that's just great nuggets of information. People can kind of just share like, hey, so even if it's not like this big community thing where everybody's best friends or whatever, we're still like sharing these little nuggets and whatever. And I never feel like that's hurting my business if someone else like now all of a sudden sells the same women's jeans that I am. Like there's enough people to go around and enough inventory to go around. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's necessary, but I feel like there's only benefits. I can't see any downfalls to it at all.
No, yeah, I don't see any downfalls either. And I mean, could you live without it? Sure. But it is very helpful. I find there's the odd person who's just kind of like comes off as maybe a little aggressive. If you post an item and they're just like, well, look it up. You know what I mean? Well, like, yeah, obviously you could look it up. People are just looking for some advice. If you're just getting into stuff, like I seen somebody on the Facebook group recently post, I think, I guess, was it a hoodie or jacket or a sweater? It was definitely a garment. They're just kind of looking for, they didn't really know what to look for, if it was authentic or not, right? And
Mhm.
I think people had just gave their advice. It's just nice to be able to talk to other people or talk through things. And for the most part, anybody I've reached out to, also like doing YouTube content like this, most people will contact you and actually talk to you. There's like no barrier to like talk to anybody. You could try to approach this about anybody in this space, and most people I find are pretty approachable, want to talk about it, enjoy talking about it, and truly want to be helpful for the most part.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, another point, like I said, when I was starting up, deciding to get into reselling a little bit, I kind of had to change gears a little bit because I'd moved to a new area, like we talked about. I didn't have the same opportunities for video games, hard goods, and things that I had been selling. And I realized that clothing might be my best option. I mean, what do I do from there? Well, I started looking up clothing resellers on YouTube, and if those channels didn't exist, if we didn't have the Tabs McCaffreys of the world or the Kaylee Lanes of the world and stuff, sharing what they're selling, I would have had no clue. I would have no clue whatsoever. And so I credit a lot of my success, which is not like, oh man, I'm some rich reseller, but like, hey, I'm doing pretty good. I credit all of that, almost all of that at least, to these other channels that took the time to share that and help other people out. So, so for me, it's important to do this so that I can also give back and then maybe help somebody else out, right? And just kind of pay it forward.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, I know, and it's no surprise to probably anybody watching this particular podcast. The amount of Canadian resellers on YouTube is like so small, and there's no really. There's some people who have some pretty good numbers, but there's no like breakout personality. I don't think for Canadians like Americans. Like a small American reseller seems to channel seems to be at like 10,000 plus subs pretty easy.
Yeah.
Way harder to grow in Canada. It's a smaller niche, but that also does mean, I just noticed with the people who watch my channel and I watch other Canadian content, I see a lot of the names pop up in the comments, and it is a lot of the same people watching. And it's kind of cool to see that community that way too.
Yeah, I think there is just naturally going to be more community here and some more, those regular names that you're going to see because we are so limited. We've got a 10% of the population of the US. And, so there's only so many of us online watching these videos. So it is nice to have like that just sort of baseline support group. And, starting even on my channel, like I've got such a small channel, but like seeing some of these regulars that comment on every video, it's like, this is great. Hey, thanks. Like, I really appreciate these people taking the time out of their life to, watch my 10-15 minute video, even if it's something they don't care about whatsoever. I mean, there's a lot of guys that watch my channel and I'm talking about selling all these women's clothes and stuff. And they're just like, yeah, man, hey, good job. I'm just like, cool. Like, I don't know. And maybe that's a cultural thing too. Maybe I don't want to say that we are necessarily more supportive than Americans, but I don't want to start a debate or anything. But I know that we do have a pretty good sense of community, just sort of as our baseline in Canada. I feel like at least that's been my experience in my 40 years. So maybe there's a little bit of that at play as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're essentially known to be polite and nice. I don't, that's not. I can tell you that's not always the case. There's plenty of Canadians who fall in the other category, but
Yeah,
I think for the most part, I think Canadians are pretty uh, understanding and supportive for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. So, how your sales this week were pretty good? Yes.
yeah. Not bad. I'd been recently selling off some of my personal collection of items. This week, this past week that just ended on Saturday, because I do my weeks from Sunday to Saturday. Wasn't like a huge week, but it was a good there was good quantity, good volume, a good mix of items going out. And it was probably about like 80% as far as the dollar value goes of what my normal week's been the last little while. But it was weird though. It felt like a really slow week, but it just kept adding up and ended up being like a pretty good week. And I did have a day without a sale, which I know. So yeah, like last year I'd have been, I never would have thought about it. Like to go a day without a sale or something, that's no big deal. There'd be times where I'd go a week without a sale, but I had my first like no sale day for a little while now, probably like 3 weeks, and it felt really weird. So it was like one of these things where I thought, man, what's happening here? Is everything going on a downturn again? But then at the end of the week, it seemed good. So yeah,
That's definitely a plus. I know it's been a while since I've had a zero on the board as well, but I sell on a lot more platforms, so it's definitely a lot more discouraging when I'm across 5 or 6 different platforms and you get a zero. It's like, oh, something's wrong. But it's sort of the roller coaster up and down of online selling in general, and it just it's so hard to say why those days happen, but they do, and I think they do happen to all of us. But with all that being said, did you have a particular sale of the week this week?
I did actually. And this wasn't like a high profit sale or anything, but it kind of goes back to something we've talked about, plenty of times. Like, I don't get attached to my inventory. I like making bundle deals. I like having repeat buyers. I like being easy to work with. So I actually had a 10-piece bundle go out on Poshmark last week, and that was my biggest bundle that I've ever sold there. Heck, maybe it wasn't my biggest bundle. I've had one similar to that maybe about a year ago, but I think it was probably the biggest. In any case, a 10-piece bundle. Look, if I sold each of those items individually, it's probably worth like 250, 260 or something like that. But my buy cost is low enough, someone's going to create a 10-piece bundle, I'm going to send them a nice low offer. I don't care if it's like 40% off my regular price. Like, I want to make that sale. And if that means that they're getting it and they've got some money to make on the other end, if they're reselling or whatever, cool. I don't even care. Um, so I didn't end up making a that sale for $125. They actually countered. I think I'd sent out 150 and they came back with 125, which was about 50% off. But again, I was just in that moment like, how do I turn this down? How do I not make this sale and move 10 items, 10 nice items going to the same person? Like, this person's probably going to come back to me. So, yeah, it wasn't a huge profit. I might have made like $45 or something in actual net profit after fees, but I was very happy with it. I love moving bulk items.
Yeah, that's a good way to do that. And like you said, I think building that relationship where somebody might follow you and check out your store and look through again, like, hey, this guy John, he's giving deals. I'm going to check it and see what he
Yeah.
has. That's definitely a mentality that's good to have in reselling for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still making money, right? So
Oh yeah.
if it was a case where I was like not making a lot or it wasn't really worth it for me to do it, well, no, I'm not going to accept that low of an offer or send that low of an offer out in the first place. But
Yeah.
hey, there's still money to be made.
Yeah, and I think that's important to stay and remember too, because there's all kinds of different tiers of reselling, right? Like I currently have been buying multiple things from different people who are buying to resell. It's not a store, it's not a yard sale. It's they're buying stuff low to flip to somebody like me for maybe sometimes more than thrift prices, maybe sometimes less, depends on what they paid for it, right? But I think there's, we talk about reselling and a lot of people think about selling online, but there's multiple types of ways you can do it. So but even if you are selling online, you can still, if you look at Whatnot as an example, a lot of people
Mm,
source on Whatnot to sell on eBay and other platforms too.
yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's wherever you can find deals, right?
Exactly. How about yourself? You have a good sale this week that you
Yeah, yeah. So I was pretty excited, and I think in my last thrift haul video, I showed like a little 13-inch Toshiba CRT television, and I listed it, and it sold. I've been stumbling over it honestly for a bit, and then I'm like, just should list this because I've been stepping over it for about 4 or 5 days. Uh, got an offer right away, or I didn't get an offer right away. Somebody asked if I could hold it until the 1st of May. And I had said, well, I get a lot of TVs like this. Like, just come back, follow my store, come back and look. If you still want it, I'll give you a really good deal on it. Don't worry about it. But if you can't, I can't hold this one. So we talked a little bit more and they were kind of asked about shipping. And then the next thing you know, they just bought it. I think it sold for something like just under $100 anyway, 97, 98. I'll throw it up on screen regardless. But nice quick sale. I think I charge $40 for shipping on that type of TV, just because if it did happen to go somewhere further, like maybe out to you or maybe out west or something like that, probably would cost closer to the $40 mark. This happened to go to Toronto. I think the shipping was like just over $20 with Canada Post, actually, still.
wow.
But that's through Stallion Express, which I guess I should say because someone else will look that up and say, oh, it still costs $40. Well, it's because I'm getting a discount. But I was happy because it sold right away. Uh, and yeah, I don't know. I think I paid $10 at Goodwill, which is for Goodwill, that has been expensive. They were selling TVs like that for like $5 the last couple of years I've walked into there, but for whatever reason, that one was marked up. But just happy to find it and flip it quick.
Yeah.
And the only real problem was just me not wanting to list it because it wasn't that I knew it was going to sell. It's shipping those TVs kind of sucks.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
That's sometimes the deterrent. It's like I got some good stuff, but it's like, man, do I even want to ship that?
Hmm.
But then it's like, oh, okay. Like, list the thing that's gonna sell for $90,
Yeah.
and just do it, right? I
Yeah.
remember selling a couple of vintage typewriters now already, and it's like, man, I don't want to sell this 25-pound typewriter. Like, this is gonna be such a pain to ship, and I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to have to like Frankenstein a box and stuff by putting two boxes together and figuring it all out. But at the end of the day, it's like made 50, $60 on each one. Like you just gotta list them, right? So no, that's cool. That's a cool sale.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, it is fun. I do like selling those, and there isn't too much that can go wrong with those. Once if they turn on, they're pretty much. I mean, I did test it. I plugged the VCR to make sure it actually worked and it wasn't doing anything funky. But those things are made like brick, like tanks. Like it's just
Oh
hard
yeah.
to break them. They're gonna seem like they're gonna last forever. Not like a modern TV. You could buy a new modern LCD or QED, whatever the new ones are, and you'd be lucky if you get 5 years out of a new TV.
Yep. I've got a CRT. I think it's a 24-inch, I think, and it's what I play my retro video games on. And it's actually Sears brand, like it's a Sears TV. So I don't know. It's from sometime in the '90s, and man, like this thing just it still works perfectly. Like the screen is still nice and crisp, and it makes those old games look great. Yeah, they're just. I mean, they're heavy, but they're built to last.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's how things were made back in the day, for sure. Um, so we've kind of hit some topics today. I think that might kind of come around and mesh well with this. Like, what do you think about reseller burnout? Do you think it's a real thing? And do you think it equates to people wanting to quit selling, just in general? I thought we could talk about this for a bit and just sort of round today
Yeah.
out with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real thing. I think it greatly depends on your own personal situation. Like I know for me, I'm feeling the burnout today, but hey, that's because I was out late last night. Um, and just had a busy day at work and stuff. I mean, obviously everybody's situation is going to be different, but sometimes, I mean, I feel it. Like I list every day, and um, there's some mornings I get up and I don't want to do it. I just want to sleep in, or at my lunch break, I don't want to do it. I just want to get on the couch and take a nap. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility, but um, I I think it's easy to get discouraged when you're reselling, especially if you're newer. If things aren't growing maybe as fast as you'd hoped, like maybe you're setting goals that are lofty goals, and you should, but maybe they're not realistic goals. And so if you're failing, you're missing your targets or missing your goals, it can get a little bit harder to stay positive about it. And so maybe that kind of factors into like a little bit of the mental fatigue, and which leads into that burnout a little bit. I know I kind of suffered from that a little bit in the early stages, but I think once you get going enough where it's just like you're spending some time on it every day. Maybe it's that 20 minutes. Sometimes that's all it is for me in the run of a day if I'm just listing that day. Maybe, you're pulling and packing orders, you're sourcing, you're putting in some hours or whatever. But like once you just build it as part of your regular everyday routine, it's like just something you do. I think it's a little bit easier. Like I kind of equate it to like a few years ago in 2018, I did a run streak. I ran every day for a year, minimum of a mile, but like my average was over 7 kilometers a day for 365 days. Ran 2 marathons that year. Like I was in peak shape that year. And at first, it seemed like this is crazy. The first couple months were like, oh my god, I can't believe I got 10 more months of this. This is stupid. What am I doing? But then you're just doing it and it becomes second nature. You don't even think about it. And all of a sudden you're back from your 5K run or your 10K run. And it's like, it didn't even happen. And I feel like, you know, some of that experience has helped me kind of get through the reselling snags a little bit. But I think it's a similar type situation.
Yeah. I I think for me, I think I find I put in too much time. So just to give you an idea of what my life probably looked like before I even got to reselling, I struggled to make it to work 5 days a week. I worked work, really disliked not just factory in general. That's not for me, but it was a necessity to be a responsible adult that I needed a job, and it was a good job with benefits. And I had a really hard time, like I said, making it 5 days a week. You know, got into reselling, got really into it. Obviously, over time, became a full time reseller. Now I put in 7 days a week, uh, and I love it. But I definitely feel like when I sit back and think about it, I'm like, how was I working a job doing reselling on the side? I know I was doing some of the reselling stuff at my job, so that makes a little bit of sense. But I feel like I have less free time now, even though the goal of this to some extent was to have more free time. So I think it really depends on someone's personality. I'm just so all into this that I feel like sometimes I do feel burnout, but it has a lot more for me to do with I think traveling. Like I think sometimes I don't really love driving around all the time.
Mm,
Would rather be home and work from home, but the travel really wears me down after a while to the point where sometimes when I'm thrifting, you just don't feel like you're into it. I mean, you'll find stuff and it'll be like it gets exciting again, but like, when you go to a few places and not because you don't find stuff every time you go,
yeah,
right? That can be discouraging. Um, it's just I think the more and more you get into it, the bigger time suck it can be, which I think also for me, YouTube is takes up a big chunk of my time. I'm sure people maybe watching don't realize that, but to make a 15-minute video, you have to film all the clips and edit it. Before you know it, you're into it 3 or 4 hours, and then you got to proof it to make sure that it actually, I mean,
yeah.
it's not just a 10-minute thing to throw a video together for sure. So
No,
that's also a big, time suck for me right now, just because I'm trying to do 3 videos a week, but usually is 2 or 3 for sure.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean that makes perfect sense. And like, I worked shift work for a few years as well before I took the position that I got now. I know what that's like, and I know how much that can. I know that that can really mess up any semblance of a schedule or like a stable psyche. And so I get it. It's hard to have a good routine when you're doing that. And so for me, while I can relate to you with the hey, now I work 7 days a week kind of deal, um, it's been really important for me to at least have one day a week where even if I do some stuff in the morning, so like Sunday for me, it changes. Some days is a little bit different, but like usually on Sundays, we try to make that our reset day. That is our rest and relaxation day. If we've got errands and chores and all that crap to do on the weekends, or maybe it's outsourcing, whatever else, we try to do that on Saturday. And then on Sunday, get whatever we need to get done by like noon or whatever. And the rest of the day is feed up, play some video games, watch movies, whatever it is. Now, yeah, over yard sale season and stuff, and over this next week or so when I'm going to be on vacation and out trying to source heavily and stuff, that's going to change a little. But I think it is important to just allow yourself that one day where even if it's not the full day, you're blocking off at least 8 hours where it's like, no, no, this is not reselling time. This is just me time to just reset and give yourself that. I think it's really important.
Yeah, and you're right, and I've actually been trying for the last month to schedule out my time a little different to try to give myself that break. I haven't figured it out, or well, I've figured it out on paper. I haven't actually executed it yet,
Right.
but I would like one day a week off where it wasn't worried about it too much. But it's very very hard. I find my personality. I would have to probably go in and make sure I just put do not disturb on the apps that I don't want notifications from because I just can't leave it alone. But that's more personality based. Lots of people could probably be like eBay, some kind of report, something happened. Oh, case is open. I would have to dig right into it and look right away.
Right.
So it's so hard for me to turn that off.
Yeah, no, I get that. I can distract myself with other hobbies pretty easily, so I try to stay busy with other things, but I'll when I'm on that reset day, I have my phone sitting face down away from me out of arm's reach.
Yeah.
So unless I make the conscious effort to be like, okay, this was cool. I just played some, Nintendo Switch for a couple hours. Let me just take a quick peek. And then at least I'm in control. I'm making that conscious decision to be like, all right, I'll just check on things for 5 minutes and then put it back down. Even that to me is it's enough of a barrier that it's not just flashing in my eyes constantly.
Yeah.
That's it's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using the Apple Watch, so
Oh,
it's like I can't even get away from it unless, like I said, unless I did just a do not disturb mode or
yeah.
whatever. And sometimes I'll do that. Like sometimes when I watch like a baseball game is something that I like to just unwind with. It's like a couple hours, right? With the pitch clock now, it's usually a 2 hour game. I'll usually take my phone off, put it on the charger. I don't want notifications. I usually will put my phone down, but if it starts to become a bad game, you pick your phone up, and before you know it, you're lost in that. The phone can be such a great tool, and it can also be just such an addictive time waste too, right?
Oh yeah, no, that's I think that's a huge social commentary video. We could probably get into the philosophy of that, and I can talk about that for hours. But no, it's true, man. I mean, I think that is part of the burnout or the potential burnout, is just not knowing when to just turn things off and when to just give yourself that little bit of release. So I don't know. It is going to be different for everybody, obviously. For me, I've got a full time job and I'm putting in, 10, 15 hours a week or something into the reselling. So, I've got friends who say to me, like, hey, how aren't like this question's come up, like, how aren't you getting burnt out? Like, how are you doing all this? Because I also have other hobbies that I do. Like I play video games probably 15, 20 hours a week. I bowl in a league. I'm gonna be playing ball soon, like, all of these other things. At some point I'm gonna get back into running, but I think what saves me is that I really enjoy it, right? Like I really, my focus is just I'm getting that. Yeah, it's a little bit of a dopamine hit, but I'm also getting that that sense of accomplishment when every week I'm making an extra payment on a credit card, or I'm seeing the actual results of this, and I'm seeing my debt going down, and I'm seeing my quality of life going up, and all of these things. So it makes it easier to like not get burnt out, but actually get like energized by it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part of it that I think that I do love is overall, even if sometimes it is overwhelming and it feels like it takes up your time, I do still find it very, very rewarding. And like you said, you get the dopamine when you list a TV and it sells,
Hmm.
or you list a video game console and it sells, and you're like, yeah, this is what it's all about.
All right, folks. So thanks very much for watching this episode. Let us know what you think down below. Do you get a little bit overwhelmed if you're a reseller? Do you think this would be energizing? I know we talked about quite a few things here today, but for me, it's a balancing act. You got to do what's right for yourself and give yourself that grace to just kind of calm down, relax a little bit. But yeah, overall, I think it's great. Appreciate all the support on the channel here so far. I think this is episode 8 already. I probably should have had that handy before I did this. But in any case, thanks very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.